welcome to Knowledge Drop Podcast, Episode 3. This week, Hayden and Derek are sitting down to talk about the Psyche Asteroid. 16 Psyche. That's the name.
Like psych, like back when you're like, hey, I have cancer. Psych! Is that how it is?
Yeah. That always makes people laugh. Yeah, it's called 16 Psyche.
Okay.
Is the name of the asteroid. So we're going to talk a little bit about, we're going to get into what the asteroid's all about, what it means for us, what it means for our future, why it's important, why the heck do we care about this asteroid that's millions of miles away. And we'll get into all the nitty gritty about why it's important, why it's cool. So,
all right.
But to start off, I wanted to get into just a little fun fact. I think this is gonna.
Ooh, fun fact.
Hopefully, we can make some sort of segment out of this. Like, we'll give it a cool name. Like.
Ooh, and sound effects.
Yeah, we'll get a choo 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 or something like that.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, "Welcome to Mind Blow." Maybe that'll be the name of the segment. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll play with it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. You guys let us know. But I wanted to start off maybe every week with like just a weird, interesting, cool, mind-blowing fact that nobody has really heard about. So I recently stumbled upon this. Man, I don't remember how, but ever since I found out, ever since I heard about it, I can't let it go. I feel like I need to tell people about it. So here's a question. How fast is the fastest moving object ever recorded on Earth? What was its top speed? Now think about this, because you've got rockets, you've got land vehicles, the land speed record, you got bullets.
Do rockets count because they're not on Earth?
They are on Earth for a while. So I'm talking about...
I would say the International Space Station's going 17,500 miles per hour. That's pretty dang fast.
Oh, I got you beat.
Serious? Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah.
Is this something that like was on Earth and just like was shot out into orbit?
Well, that's a great question, because there's some speculation about that.
There's mystery involved. Cool.
Yeah.
This really is a fun fact.
So I usually start off by asking, what's the fastest object ever recorded on Earth? And I asked that, but there's really no way of you ever guessing it. Like,
it's
nobody.
A pretty broad
yeah.
question.
Well, nobody knows about this. So in the 50s, they were doing nuclear tests for the first time.
Nuclear?
What? Is that not the right word?
Sorry, I thought I heard you say it differently. the George
Nuclear?
Bush way. Nuclear.
Nuclear? Is that not right?
That's
Nuclear.
how. That's just how he said
Nuclear?
it. It's just kind of funny. Sorry.
Nuclear tests. And so first they were doing above ground tests.
Yeah.
Right? And I guess some people got worried about, like maybe this could be bad for the environment, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, so they did realize that.
There were some thoughts about that. So they were like, well, let's do underground testing. So they started to put the bombs underground. To pretty much just to see what would happen. Like...
Well, I mean, like, how far down did they go?
So they didn't go down super deep. They went down. They did a hole about 4 feet in diameter, and it was about 400 feet deep. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So
it's not bad at all.
It's not that deep, but it's it's down in the ground.
Yeah.
They wanted to see what would happen, and so you got this 4-foot diameter hole with a nuclear bomb 400 feet down.
So
right?
They made a cannon.
So they covered this 4-foot hole.
Oh dear.
With a 2,000-pound steel plate.
Okay.
So, and the plate's not bolted down or anything.
Interesting.
I don't know what so I guess they knew that this was gonna launch the plate. And like literally nobody said anything, because before they even did the test, people were speculating on how fast the plate would move. like how fast
so
it would go.
It was kind of like one of those things that you just kind of throw in there, and it's gonna be
Yeah.
a fun little thing that happens.
Yeah, there were scientists that were literally like estimating how fast they thought the plate would move, how fast it would be launched. So I guess there was no concern for like anybody's like, oh, yeah, this won't reach anybody else, I guess. But
I'm assuming it did.
Yeah, well, that's the mystery. So let me read here. So at its top speed, so they had a high-speed camera on this thing. They only caught it for one frame. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was out of frame.
Well, I mean, like, how good were the high-speed cameras in
Man, I wish I remembered.
1950?
Well, they had a pretty high-speed camera.
Oh, so it's pretty decent?
Probably, like, the top line, it's the top line at the time.
Yeah, well, I just mean, like...
All I remember is that they were able to calculate a lower bound for the speed.
Sure.
So like it has to be going at least this fast based on we caught it for one frame and then it was gone.
Yeah.
Right? So they caught it for one frame and they were able to kind of get like okay, this is the minimum speed.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying that it reached a minimum speed of 41 miles per second. Miles per second.
So
that's about
41 miles per second.
It's about 6 times Earth's escape velocity for going into space. So the plate was never found. They never ever found the plate. They don't know where it is or what happened to it. So they're thinking that either A, it is in space, and therefore became the first man-made object ever to reach space. Because Sputnik hadn't even, none of that had happened yet.
Yeah.
Or B, it was vaporized in Earth's atmosphere. Or C, it's just probably hundreds of miles away somewhere. So, there you go.
Just so that I didn't do this wrong. So 41 miles per second, you multiply that by 3,600 and you get miles per hour.
Yep.
That's 147,600 miles per hour.
Correct.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's significantly faster than the ISS.
Yeah, and I've seen different numbers, but like the first time that I heard about this story, they said 36 miles per second, which would be about 130,000 miles per hour. That's still way faster than anything that we've kind of ever seen before on Earth. So, anyway.
Whoa. That or just vaporized, like hitting all the air on the way up.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
That's incredible.
I don't think it really reached space. I think maybe it could have reached like an outer level of the atmosphere possibly and come back and just vaporized,
Wow. That was fun.
Yeah.
I will say.
I don't know. If we could, I just thought it was cool, so thought I'd share it. Just a little warm up,
Well, now for at least for me, for next week, you've hit like a very high standard of, fun and awesome. So
now
I can live up to that.
Now you know what the fastest object ever recorded on Earth is. So there you go. Tell your friends.
147,000, give or take.
Yeah, give or take. I don't really. There's not really. I don't have the perspective to really understand that speed. Like, 40 miles per second is kind of like unfathomable to me. But
Well, then I'll save that for my fun fact because that would be a fun thing to talk about.
Teaser.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so fun fact is over. Let's get into the 16 Psyche Asteroid. So, I know what you're thinking. Why is this cool? Just a freaking rock floating around.
Sir, it is not just a freaking rock.
Okay.
Let me tell you what I know so far.
Okay. Yeah, tell me what you know and then we'll get into it.
The Psyche Asteroid is a fully dense metal asteroid.
Yeah.
and it is believed to be the leftovers of a planet core.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, no one's ever traveled to the Earth's core.
Correct.
You know, we don't ever talk about that movie, The Core. Like, you know, let's never, go into that. But
Mm-hmm.
we can't go there for obvious reasons. And, being able to study an old cold core
Mm-hmm.
would give us a lot of insight into our own planet and, all those things. But also, I think someone estimated how much, it would. So if you could wrap the whole thing and bring it home and then sell all the metal, it's like $90 trillion.
Oh, my friend.
Every person on Earth would become like a billionaire.
My friend.
Money would be worthless. But anyway,
You
that's a
have
whole nother
greatly
conversation.
underestimated the value.
I got the number wrong.
That's so wrong.
I could have sworn it was
Yeah.
bigger or smaller.
Oh, way bigger.
Okay.
Way bigger.
Anyway, everyone. The bottom line: every person on Earth is a billionaire. Money is worthless.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even need to do that anymore.
Well, I want to talk to you about that. But first, let's get into kind of some of the details.
But yeah, that's all I know about Psyche.
Okay.
It's this fully dense asteroid. We're gonna go study it.
So when you say fully dense, it's pretty much all metals.
It's
right?
it's primarily nickel iron
Uh-huh.
composition, and we've identified it, and we have programs in place that we're gonna go visit it.
Yeah, and it's an old planet core.
Yes.
So that's why it's called 16 Psyche, is because it's classified as a minor planet.
Oh, okay.
So there are 15 other minor planets before this one. So that's why it's called 16 Psyche.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Interesting. And it's one of the 10 most massive asteroids in the asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the asteroid belt that's it's about 3 times the distance from the Earth to the Sun, from us to this asteroid.
So 3 astronomical units.
Is one astronomical unit the distance from the Earth to the Sun?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes. I didn't know that.
That's a minor fun fact.
That is awesome. It's over 200 kilometers or 120 miles in diameter. And it's about 1% of the mass of the entire asteroid belt. So it's pretty big. It's pretty decently sized. 120 miles, not bad. It's thought... Oh, you already said that. Yeah, it's a protoplanet, which means it used to be a planet, and we're looking at a dead planet. Maybe there were other beings living on this planet.
Oh,
Who knows?
weird to call it a protoplanet, because usually proto I would think would be something that comes before the main, prototype. Prototype
Yeah.
comes before the main product.
Why is that? Is it just kind of like it's not a real planet, it's a protoplanet. It's not a real type, it's a prototype.
Prototype is like a working model. I wonder if they mean it in that way of it's a planet, but it's not really working. It does its thing. It has gravity, but it's not a real planet.
I don't know. Linguistics of the word proto. Not word, but suffix? Anyway. English lesson of the day.
Yeah.
So in 2014, they proposed a mission to visit the Psyche asteroid. They proposed a mission to NASA. It was in some sort of competition of missions.
Yeah.
So all these missions are hey, you guys should choose us. And so it was one of the finalists, finally got chosen in 2017. January 2017, it was approved for NASA to go and do a mission there. They want a spacecraft that can orbit the Psyche asteroid for 20 months, studying its topography, the surface features, the gravity, the magnetism, just learning everything we can about it. Let's see, they moved up the launch date. They want to launch in 2022 so that they can use a Mars gravity assist in 2023 and therefore arrive in 2026. So not that far off, actually.
Yeah, not too bad.
They had a different date, but then they moved it up so that they could use this Mars gravity assist. So, I think this whole thing it's got to be motivated by money. I get the whole space exploration thing, but it's too much to ignore, you know?
Well, the other thing that we need to acknowledge is that space is not just a place we go to explore now. Like, there are companies that are looking to mine asteroids.
Yep.
They want to look for natural resources in space to bring them home here.
Yep. And I say those people are really smart.
Super smart.
So I guess first and foremost is like, yeah, we want to learn about this, what used to be a planet, blah, blah, blah. But they estimate that this asteroid alone, just this one, is worth about $700 quintillion.
Oh, so I left out the quintillion.
Yeah, so that's 1 followed by 18 zeros. So
yeah,
it's a lot. If if you divided the value of the asteroid, like you were saying, between every human on Earth, each person would receive $93 billion.
Yeah. See, I do remember that.
You remember something like that, yeah. So, interesting. I kind of want to, let's put that aside for a second, because I want to come back to that. Like, what would that mean for Earth?
Well, just as my first thought was, there was, I don't know if you watched Star Trek.
A little bit.
There was an episode, I didn't watch it, I heard this secondhand, but they were talking about how there were some, there are people now that freeze themselves so they could be revitalized in the future.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's their last gamble to cheat death.
Mm-hmm.
But they found a bunch of these people in Star Trek that were, from hundreds of years ago, and they woke them up. And one of the guys was a big-time investor, and he was just like, oh man, all my investments are gonna be crazy awesome and huge, and my bank account's gonna be out the wazoo. And all of the Star Trek crew were like, what are you talking about? What's money?
Oh.
Because apparently that fandom
whole system
they don't operate on money. And so
bummer.
Yeah. It would be interesting to talk more about
yeah, what would that mean for everybody?
Yeah,
is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can just get into it then.
Yeah. That's just a primer for what I want.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking about it. Is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? If everybody on the Earth was a billionaire, what would that mean? Does money just cease to be an issue, or does it become more of an issue than ever before?
I feel like it would become more of an issue because you're going to introduce a new system of society at the drop of a hat.
Yeah.
I feel like if we slowly transitioned into a pattern of the fact that
so much prosperity.
Yeah, we don't need to, earn money. You still want to be doing things, obviously. But
right.
Transitioning to a society where you don't need money.
Right.
It would be hard because imagine you can't buy anything because there's no monetary value on anything. So I feel like it would just go into anarchy.
But how? Right. I mean, how would that work? Because in my mind, I almost think, okay, well, if everybody became a billionaire, then you would just up the prices accordingly.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Or I don't know.
Now a loaf of bread is $100,000 or something.
Yeah. So you'd think everything would just become super inflated.
Yeah.
But for me, I feel like we could. I don't know. The ideas that I would say is keep it separate from the Earth.
Yeah.
And create a second economy just for this asteroid, and then have it trading with Earth.
Okay.
So create a dual economy, so that you don't just immediately overwhelm Earth with just buttloads of money.
Well, in a realistic way, you're not going to divide the money between everybody evenly, right?
True.
I mean,
because there's babies, there's people who are.
Well, there's also just self-interest, right? I mean, the company that gets there and it has the capability to do that.
Yeah.
They're only looking out for their own self-interest, right?
Yeah. So
if somebody was able to do it, wouldn't they establish, they're the first ones. They have control.
Yeah, that's a whole nother issue because there's the space treaty that was signed internationally in the 60s and 70s or whatever it was. Says that no government can claim any celestial body, including asteroids.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean commercial entities can't.
Right.
And so imagine, so in America, big time companies can lobby. They can pay politicians to fight for certain laws to be made or not made, for that matter.
Yeah.
How scary would it be that in a matter of a few years, there's a company that has more money than the entire Earth combined?
That's what my thought was, is that if somebody had that amount, what stops them from creating just the ultimate monopoly on this?
Yeah. Because at that point, we'd be at the whims of the leader of that company.
Right. And that much money kind of means, like, doesn't it kind of mean, like, world domination?
Well, like, I think the quote goes, like, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, I think. I can't remember the quote.
Something like that.
But yeah, like, it would... So that's why I say, like, creating another society within this... So, like, my first thought would be, it's fully dense. That's a ship. You put some thrusters all over that thing, you've got the Death Star. Except without the death.
Without the death. Yeah.
Without the giant laser beam. Why not create a thriving society within that? Spin it. Obviously, there's problems with spinning it for gravity on the inside, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But create another society that is specifically just for mining, and then you are in trade with the Earth.
Sure. That's
because then I feel like the economy would really be stable, because it'd be really hard to run out of material there.
Right. Who knows? It could go so many ways. Because what stops them from just shipping more and more and more and more?
Yeah, that's where there'd be some regulation involved, is just like, you can't come in, so like, let's just say platinum. There's going to be a lot of platinum on the planet, just by nature of the fact that it's so dense.
Yep.
If they were to just put cartloads of platinum on Earth, it would just drop. It'd be worthless. It'd be
right.
It'd be like aluminum.
You have to do
steel. Just
over time.
Cheap. And like, I don't want something like, so diamonds are
a girl's best friend.
Well, obviously, but they're not as rare as we might think they are, and the price is super inflated, almost as inflated as housing.
Yep.
In America, anyway. And so I don't think that, like, it should be artificially inflated, but I feel like it...
Well, doesn't it already... So things on Earth are worth what they're worth because they're rare. Supposedly, right?
Correct.
Like, this metal is worth so much because it's rare, and or it can be used in whatever, useful ways, things that you can't accomplish with other metals, right?
I would also add that it's expensive to accumulate that material.
It's expensive to get it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then how much more, like, so you have gold, right? You have earth gold, but then what's Psyche gold worth? It has to be worth more, right?
Well, see,
it's 10 times harder to get.
I feel like it would be easy to, like, lower the cost of gold. Not a lot, but, like, enough to where that's just, like, almost a fixed price.
But you don't think that because it comes from that asteroid that it would just, like, it's more rare, it's harder to get.
Well, that's the thing, is it wouldn't be rare, though. Like, there's
it would be rare.
There, just to, like...
Because you can't just say, oh, great, let's pile all the gold onto a ship and just get it back to Earth. I mean, obviously you have to take into account how much you can take at a time. Yeah. And if you were smart, you would take only small amounts at a time. Because, let's say I bring back 1,000 pounds of Psyche Asteroid gold. Okay? So that's the only Psyche Asteroid gold on Earth. So that gold has to be worth...
So
I mean, does that change the value of it?
Yeah, I would say if you're saying, like, we're going to use Psyche gold for jewelry, then yeah, it would be a lot more expensive, because you're, like, saying it's an added I don't know, purity or, added sensationalist idea of like, oh, this came from space.
Exactly.
But the actual, like, nature of gold is the same, and so
It would
that's
be the
why I
same.
feel like it shouldn't be
Over time,
Yeah,
it wouldn't be different.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the golds, just using gold as the continued example,
Uh-huh.
you don't really need to inflate it. Like, it's already expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And bringing the gold, I don't know, maybe it's altruistic for me to think of the fact that you just want to bring gold to, make because of the amount of gold you have, you're just going to make tons of money, but you're not going to, like, try and take advantage of the earth. You're going to want to bring this material so that
Right.
things are going to be cheaper, because
Not everyone's Elon Musk, Derek. Not everyone can be him.
I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I just think, things could go a bad way,
And I think that's another reason for, being aware of this and, like, starting to talk about it now, because there's going to be some decisions that we don't want to make. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that we'd have to be really careful, not to give too much power to somebody.
Yeah, that's my point, is, like, I don't know if I really want someone to have that much power over the entire Earth.
Right. Yeah, interesting. What do you guys think? It's kind of weird. It's kind of like, what do you do when you have that kind of power? Or maybe it wouldn't change as much as we think. Maybe it would be more gradual. I don't know.
I mean, if a company like Google, owned the asteroid, I think I'd be okay with it.
No?
I don't...
What do they say about absolute power?
Did you see the article, though, that came out this week?
What?
So, elections are coming up.
Yes.
And there was a poll done about certain political officials, not just the president, but others.
Uh-huh.
Or maybe they just lumped it into one, just American government. But the poll said that generally people trust Google and Apple more than the American government.
Well, I don't know how I feel about that.
I agree. I'm I love Google. I could care less about Apple, but, like, I love Google, but I'm a little sad that we live in an environment where we trust a corporate entity more than the government that, where we live and protects us. And
Right.
so,
Yeah, I think that the government is worthy of that. Like, I think that they've earned that.
yeah.
But at the same time, I don't trust Apple or Google. Do I trust them more than the government? I don't know. I don't have much trust in either one. But I guess if you think about it, I have to have a lot of trust in Apple. They have all my personal information. Or they could have access to it if they wanted to.
Well, I'd make the argument that you would trust the government more because they uphold the law and make sure that someone doesn't, like, come in and, like, take your stuff and, kill you.
Do they?
Yeah. Police systems, the army.
Well, yeah, but they can't prevent a break-in, They can do something about it if somebody does.
I guess, yeah, that's true.
I don't trust them with my protection, on a day-to-day basis.
Well, they allow you to provide your own protection.
For now.
Oh.
Not well, about half of them don't want me to. So
yeah, that's true.
So what does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a different podcast for a different day.
Yeah, I guess if you took the government as a whole, you could say, yes, the U.S. Constitution. I trust the U.S. Constitution.
Absolutely.
I love the U.S. Constitution. I think that that's what our government should be based off of and what we should stay true to. But anyway, wow, there's a tangent.
Yeah.
Let's get into politics, man.
Ugh.
Start a politics podcast.
Ugh.
Gosh, I just get so tired of politics. Like, I can take it for a little bit, but then it's just like, you know what, guys? I'm tired. I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah, so for me, I have a hard time just because I find very few people that I can have a conversation where one of us isn't getting defensive and angry.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I'm a pretty chill person.
Yeah.
And so, like, I get angry very rarely, but, like...
Some things can get you going, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, normally, especially when I'm talking about political stuff with people, I try really hard to, like, this is just a conversation.
Right.
And if I ever do, get angry, I just kind of like, okay.
Just walk away.
Just kind of walk away.
Well, that's the thing is, you say, oh, politics, let's not talk about politics, but it's so hard to avoid because so many important issues are wrapped up in politics, like so many of your most basic personal beliefs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so, people get so passionate about it, because if you're against, you're saying you're against my most base beliefs. So that can be
But I think the misunderstanding comes is just because I don't agree with your most base belief doesn't mean that you're wrong or that I'm right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what people believe.
That's the nature of a political conversation is you're wrong and I'm right. It feels like, right? I mean...
But it shouldn't be that way. I feel like
it should just be
we should be able to discuss ideas and say, like, you know what? We're friends and we can disagree.
Right.
And, I feel like it's become a point where, like, especially at higher levels where it's just like, this is the only way and I'm not going to budge at all.
Right.
Where it's like, we're supposed to be working together, like...
We need a win-win-win, like on The Office.
Yeah.
I just watched that episode the other day.
Nice.
Anyway, let's get back to space,
Yeah.
There's no politics in space. Well...
Arguable. But anyway, we'll get back to Psyche.
Space Force. Okay. So let's put this in perspective. The biggest gold mines on Earth, they bring about 5 million ounces of gold to the market every year.
Mm-hmm.
And that just pales in comparison to what you could bring from this asteroid. So that would mean that you would create orbital manufacturing facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have refueling points on or around the moon, Mars, and in the asteroid belt. So you'd refuel on the moon, refuel on Mars. Once you get to the asteroid belt, you refuel again, as many times as you need to. Kind of like a layover or something.
Yeah.
And then you would build probably... What they're saying is that you would process the minerals before they came back to Earth. Would be the smartest way.
Well, and the other thing, too, that we haven't talked about is the fact that, like, what if we just don't want to bring these materials back to Earth and just manufacture in space?
But then how do you get the money to keep going? Because you've made this huge investment.
Well, I mean, so, like, the International Space Station is being retired. Like, it'll still be up there, but it's being retired and replaced by the Lunar Gateway.
Yes.
Imagine
through government funding.
Yeah, but like they're limited by the size of the fairings on rockets for the size of the capsules or not capsules, the like pods that link together. Imagine not having that constraint. You can build a space station in whatever shape and size you want. Or a spaceship. You're not limited to this cylindrical mass anymore.
Well, sure, but just where are you getting the money to do that if all that money stays out? No.
I'm saying, like, what if... I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there. U.S. government, they want a big old, massive, like, airship, carrier, spaceship thing.
Yeah.
Like, let's just to make it more ridiculous, you played Halo, right?
Absolutely.
The Pillar of Autumn. We
Okay.
want to build one of those.
Mm-hmm.
That can only be made in space. We can't...
Right.
It doesn't really have... It'd be really, really hard to make that on Earth and put it in space.
Okay.
So, obviously, the United States would contract whoever owns the asteroid to manufacture that in space. They have the nickel and iron, and I'm sure we can find carbon, and like we can put materials in space that we need, and we can start making all of these, like electronics and like everything that we need.
So you're saying we're building things, but we're not even doing any of the building on Earth. It's just like space becomes its own kind of little
I feel like you could bring stuff to Earth, but I feel like it's so expensive to get things off Earth
Yeah.
that why not just keep it in space and use it for space stations and, the refueling points like you were talking about and things like that.
Right. And you need places to refine and process the minerals and whatnot. So
And hotels.
hotels.
You could build a hotel in space.
Where? Like on the moon, on Mars,
Wherever you want.
wherever the heck you want.
It could orbit the Earth. Just make it.
Does it have AC?
I'd be more worried about a heater than an AC.
Yeah. Well, what would that be like? So I just don't get like why wouldn't the first thing you want to do be just like bring as much of this mineral to Earth as possible? And then once you have the money from that, you're doing all your stuff in space, blah blah blah.
Yeah. So like if I keep doing this hypothetical thing. I guess that's gonna be my thing. I own the planetary resources company.
Yep.
And we're the first one to mine Psyche.
Yep.
It's gonna be a ridiculous amount of money and time to put thrusters on Psyche and push it towards Earth.
For sure.
Not to mention, how are we going to stabilize an orbit such that it doesn't destroy the moon and
sure.
doesn't just float away? So why wouldn't I set up a home base on Psyche and just have continual mining operations, but then also go and mine other asteroids?
So
and
here's the
making
thought.
ships and equipment out of the asteroid I'm on.
Well, here's the thought. What's an asteroid belt really like? Is it as volatile as it is in the movies?
No,
Like, things
no.
are just smacking each other at every second?
No.
It's not. So it's more of a constant, like, rotation. Things are staying away from each other for the most part.
There's some other podcasts that NASA has put out about the asteroid belt, and they've talked a lot about how, like, space is a big place. And
Okay.
it's very spread out. Like, yes, there's a concentration of asteroids in the asteroid belt,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like,
It's
when
not like
Han Solo
Han
leads
So- yeah.
the Imperial fighters, the TIE fighters into the asteroid belt, and they
Mm-hmm.
get smashed and stuff.
Mhm.
Like, that's not how it is.
Do you know how they filmed that?
Practical effects.
Practical effects, man.
Like,
It's a good
there's
old days.
literally two rocks, and they just crush them together.
Yeah, and the background was painted,
Yeah.
which I never knew. I mean, we just take stuff for granted these days.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so I was just saying, if I had a company, why would I want to bring the whole asteroid back when I can send shipments and, like, the Earth can either put it on Earth, or they can build a space station or hotel or whatever they want. It's just trying to deorbit that Psyche asteroid where it is and bring it to Earth.
Well, you don't need to do that to just bring shipments from the asteroid.
Yeah, that would be my thought, is it'd be the most efficient way of doing it. Just move my entire operation, if possible, to this asteroid.
Sure.
Burrow inside, make a base, because then you're protected against radiation.
Mm-hmm.
You could experiment with spinning it so you have some gravity.
So right now they have projections that this could be a commercial thing in about 50 years. Do you think that's longer or shorter than...
I think that's a lot longer than what I think is going to happen.
Really?
Yeah.
They were saying in about 25 years to get, like, to be able to even start, but 50 years would be more like
Start the actual mining
a
process.
commercial business model that would actually work. So, at the rate things are moving, maybe not. Maybe 50 years is way too long.
I think it's too long because there's a company called Deep Space Industries. I believe it's Deep Space Industries. They've already put out a satellite that is cataloging asteroids.
It's our future overlords,
Yeah.
Deep Space Industries.
They're identifying which asteroids have the most water content, because water can be made into rocket fuel, and we need water to live, that kind of thing.
65% water.
And so
body.
they're going hard for water, and they've already identified the asteroids they want to go for, and so now they're putting together the equipment because it's hard to mine in space. You need because it's a vacuum, you need like a reverse vacuum to like attach yourself to an asteroid.
Right. Man, that's complicated. Reminds me of, man, what's that movie with Bruce Willis?
Armageddon?
Yeah. They weren't exactly mining, but they were drilling.
I mean, drilling, mining, it's kind of same vein.
Yeah. They didn't say anything about that, though. They were just like, yeah, just put this nuclear bomb on here, that'll be fine. Poor Bruce Willis. He's a hero.
Always will be.
Would you like to be a part of this? If you could?
Absolutely.
If Northrop was like...
We're starting an asteroid mining program?
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. Not because I'm excited about the money I would make, because I feel like it'd be significant, but like being on... So for me, engineering is being on the cutting edge of science and technology and building new and exciting things and pushing boundaries.
Right.
And so...
It's not about the money, man. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Hey, you can
Are
get
you
as
sure?
much you can get as much money as you want, but you can't take it with you.
Oh, wow. Deep. True.
But yeah, so the reason I know about Deep Space Industries and Planetary Resources, which are two big asteroid mining companies, and then there's TransAstra, is another mining company. The reason I know about these guys because I would like to apply and maybe
Heck
work
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But right now it's really in the like stage 0 almost of development.
Mm-hmm.
They're just startups.
Pre-stages.
Yeah. And like, yeah, some of them have done some cool stuff like deep space. They've launched satellites that are cataloging these asteroids, but that's still a little unstable for me.
Sure. They would have to have their own rocket program, right?
No.
I guess my question is, how are they going to catch up to people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos?
Well, Elon Musk is still taking orders. Like,
So
they just buy the space on the
contract
rocket.
him to get that stuff done.
Because I think SpaceX's goal is to launch like a satellite a week or something, or a launch a week, or every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
this
it's
something ridiculous.
Isn't it like, man? We just had a podcast about this.
Yeah.
Isn't it like 44 a month? I thought it was something
like
like that.
Satellites or launches?
Each launch is like 60 something. Oh, man.
Anyway, but so because he can launch at that pace, like he's ahead of any of the customer orders he has.
Oh yeah.
Like he's waiting on people to finish their satellites and waiting on people to finish their whatever so that he can launch them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's really cool that he has Starlink, because then he can just be like, I guess we don't have any customers, we'll just shoot up some more of our own satellites.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, bringing that back, if you've got Starlink going on Mars, you've got, I mean, I don't know, how easy is communication from here to the asteroid belt? Pretty rough.
Like we have good communication with Mars. It's just the fact that we're so far away.
For sure.
Light can only travel so fast.
That is something that I live by. Light can only travel so fast. I don't know if I'd be a part of this. I don't want to get drafted into space.
Oh, so yeah, my wife has already banned me from going to space. I gave her a choice. I was like, all right, babe, would you rather I climb Mount Everest? Space.
Were you trying to trick her?
I was trying to go into space.
You thought, okay, she probably doesn't think I'll go to space, so she'll choose Mount Everest. And then when it comes to time to actually go to space, you can say, well, you chose Mount Everest.
Yep. I was trying to push the whole, like, it's probably safer to go up on a rocket than it is to climb Mount Everest, but she didn't go for it, so I'm still banned.
I wonder if it is. Like, if you looked at the numbers, how many people have died? So many people have died on Mount Everest. It's probably true, but then you have a lot less volume of people going on rockets, right?
True. I mean, Boeing just did their Starliner test, their abort test, which was successful.
So when they abort, they have...
Or wait, sorry, SpaceX is doing their abort test. Boeing just landed their Starliner capsule. Because they had that, like, they launched it and then it burnt too much fuel and didn't make it to the ISS. But then they were still able to recover it and it landed in New Mexico.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. But SpaceX is doing their in-flight abort test, which is like when the rocket's going and it's like at the most, it's called max Q, when there's the most aerodynamic force on the capsule.
Uh-huh.
It has to be able to eject and, you know, fly off away from the
Get
rocket.
back.
Because, like, if the rocket starts to explode at that point, we want to keep the astronauts safe.
Yep.
And so this is like the last test they have to do before they can actually fly astronauts into space.
Okay.
And Boeing is like right with them, like they're neck and neck.
You'd think they would have done that, like, before sending people into space.
What do you mean?
Like, there was none of that when we were going to the moon. It was
Oh.
just like...
There totally was.
There was?
Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Because Challenger mission.
Well, that was...
Is that just...
That was different.
Different situation?
Yeah. So, like... I need to get more details on it because I only know, like, the bare minimum. But, like, basically, there was an O-ring, a seal, somewhere that, you know, engineers were saying, we can't fly. This is dangerous. They did it anyway, and it blew up. There's no sensors that are going to say your O-ring is leaking.
Right. True.
And so I think it was just a fact of, like...
They didn't push against it hard enough?
Yeah. Well, they were pushing pretty hard, but I think it was, like, just in the fact of the vehicle itself, it was so catastrophic and so immediate that there was no real time to separate, you know? Like, it was a, you know, O-ring failed and then explosion.
Okay.
So I don't
Different
know.
situation.
I don't know enough about the situation to say that, like, oh, the flight computer should have been able to notice there's an explosion happening and ejected the shuttle.
Okay.
But I need to do more research on that.
Cool. Actually, the mechanics of materials teacher, we share a class together, Derek and I. He was saying, yeah, you guys have to be ready to push it back against things that you know are not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually gave that as an example. He was like, yeah, just think about that. I mean, maybe you lose your job, like, but you could have saved those people.
Yeah.
You know, if you would have said, no, I refuse to do this, or your whole team of engineers would have just been like, look, we can't ethically do this. Like, I don't care if you fire us, but this is, we're not flying. We're not doing this.
Yeah.
They could have saved some lives.
Yeah.
But that's a hard decision to make, you know, put your job on the line. But if you work for NASA, I feel like you can get another job, you know?
I mean, just look at Mark Rober.
Yeah.
He made his own job.
I mean, he wasn't fired, but... Because firing makes it look worse, but...
Yeah.
Still,
True.
you can explain and be like, oh, yeah, we saved their lives because we refused to do something that was unethical.
Yeah.
And they fired us. But...
Yeah.
Anyway, you got anything to add? Got any questions?
Honestly, I haven't heard a lot of what's going to happen with who's going to mine it. Because you know what's going to happen. And we need to start thinking about and talking about what kind of laws are in place for, you know, so that deep space doesn't just become our, you know, the galactic empire.
Well, the United States is developing a space force.
Yeah, but the space treaty we signed also said that we're not allowed to have military or weapons in space. So, like, that's why I'm confused by the Space Force.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it would be in space. I think it would be ready to go into space. I don't know. Need to do more research on that one. But do you think it's a good idea to have something like that? Because what if China just is like, yeah, we're gonna like, what if China just started to destroy all of our satellites? That'd be bad news for us.
Well, we just retaliate and fight them directly.
Sure.
Because that's the thing is like, if anything does happen in space, it's gonna go back to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, so we'll shoot a missile. They'll shoot a missile, and luckily there's programs at various companies that like we have missiles that shoot other missiles out of the air, mid-flight.
You know what though? I've heard that that's not as. It's not as. It's not as much of a failsafe as we have been led to believe. We can talk about this another time.
Yeah, so that's
But
just my
just saying,
initial
like-
thought with the Psyche Asteroid is just that, you know, how are we going to protect ourselves for that time?
Yeah. Yeah, what they were saying was that it's really only defensible like from like California. Like we could defend something if something came by way of California. But there are other ways that you could probably hit us. But maybe you just wouldn't hit the most important parts.
Sure.
Which is the best you can do.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So yeah, that's my only lingering question is like, you know, what do we do politically?
Comes back to politics, man. Here we are
I
again.
just really don't want to talk about
Let's
it.
get into it. Let's fight.
Yeah, other than that, I love that we're doing this. I love that we're researching it. I'm excited about what we'll find. If it's even possible to mine at this point.
I think it is. I think that it's going to become a real thing. It's too much of an opportunity to ignore, you know? So,
Sorry.
I think it'll happen. Anyway, seems like a little bit of a shorter episode.
Yeah, that's okay.
Ish this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. We are still working on getting. Actually, by the time this comes out, we should have an Instagram up. We should have
Twitter.
Facebook page. We should have Twitter, the tweeters.
Yeah, and it would go a long way if you would, you know, like or comment or, you know, whatever review, wherever you're listening, give us some feedback.
Come on, Derek. You're supposed to say, leave us a 5-star review.
Or click that like button.
Or smash that like button.
Yeah.
We need to get that down, you know. We don't have that basic YouTuber vibe yet. We need to start practicing.
But
No, so yeah, look us up. Let's see. Our email is knowledgedroppodcast1@gmail.com. Did I say that right?
Mm-hmm.
So email us there. Leave us a review on the podcast app and let us know what you think. Comment on our Facebook page, our tweeters, Instagram page.
You can ask questions there too.
I think our Instagram page is gonna be knowledge to drop. Knowledge, the number
So-
2 drop.
Twitter is knowledge to drop.
Okay, but not TO. The
Yeah,
number
it's
2, right?
knowledge number 2. Drop.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know,
And
I thought it was clever.
I know, totally. I think that I'm gonna make the Instagram page the same and the Facebook page.
Okay.
So look up knowledge, the number 2 drop. If you guys want to make a comment, give us a little review, or just email us directly at knowledgedroppodcast1@gmail.com. And thank you guys. Hope that we can, keep this going, get a little community developed around science and engineering. So
Learning new things.
yeah, let us know what you guys think and have a great week.